Diddy's jail cell was searched and prosecutors claim they found evidence suggesting Diddy was attempting to influence witnesses. Diddy's lawyers claim this violates his Fourth Amendment right. However, inmates don't have a Fourth Amendment expectation of privacy in prison, so that argument is weak.
I'm going to do everything that I can to move his case as quickly as possible. I understand that the government has a great amount of electronic devices that they have to download. And
Sean Diddy Combs' legal defense strategy has fallen apart after his attorney made shocking revelations in court and immediately withdrew from the case. The attorney's unexpected confession rattled the legal and entertainment industries. How and why? Well, a dramatic scene played out in the courtroom as the attorney revealed several serious concerns that forced him to end his professional relationship with the music mogul. Are you curious as to what went down? In this video, we'll get a detailed analysis of the attorney's explosive testimony and what it means for Diddy's ongoing legal battles. Come along. Attorney's shocking court revelations. Sean Diddy Combs' case took a completely unexpected and honestly pretty wild turn when his lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, discovered something shocking. Privileged materials were seized from Combs' jail cell. Can you imagine that? Just when things seemed like they couldn't get more intense, boom, this happened. Naturally, this unexpected event led to an emergency hearing, and you could feel the tension in the air. The whole incident stirred up some really serious concerns about attorney and client privacy. And let's be real, if a high-profile figure like Diddy can have his private legal communications violated, what does that say for everyone else? Makes you wonder, right? Diddy's attorney didn't just quit, he confessed in court. Why would a high-profile lawyer turn against one of the most powerful figures in the music industry? What did he see or know that made him walk away and reveal the truth to the world? The answers aren't just shocking, they're the kind of revelations that could unravel an entire career. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand why everything might be about to change for Diddy. So here's how the whole drama unfolded. Investigators apparently did this pre-planned sweep of the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Nothing suspicious yet, or so they claim, but here's the kicker. During this sweep, they found 17 pages of handwritten notes. We're talking detailed trial strategies, notes about potential defense witnesses, even personal bits about Diddy's family members, phone numbers, and some inspirational quotes sprinkled in there. Now here's where things get spicy. Prosecutor Christy Slavic was quick to defend the whole situation, insisting that the sweep was just part of protocol, pre-planned and not engineered to target Mr. Combs, she said. But Diddy's lawyer Mark Agnifilo wasn't having any of it. He called it straight up a complete institutional failure. And honestly, can you blame him? Imagine your private defense plans just being swiped up like that. Then the prosecution took things up a notch, claiming Diddy was trying to subvert the integrity of the case. Basically, they said he was reaching out to witnesses, even suggesting that he asked someone to dig up dirt on 2 alleged victims. The defense team fired back immediately, calling the search outrageous government conduct and a clear substantive due process violation. Judge Arun Subramanian stepped in and tried to keep things under control. He ordered the prosecutors to delete any photographs of those seized notes while he took some time to review everything. But, and this is a big but, he also made sure to say that his order wasn't based on a conclusion that anyone did anything wrong, so basically he's treading carefully, which makes sense given how high stakes this all is, and of course the reactions came in fast. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani was quick to point out that inmates in general don't exactly have Fourth Amendment privacy protections while in prison. Harsh, but that's how the system works. The prosecution doubled down, saying everything was vetted by a filter team to make sure privileged information stayed protected, but does it really hold water in this situation? Meanwhile, Diddy's defense team wasn't letting this slide. They filed requests demanding some serious transparency. They want the surveillance video of the sweep, all communications between the government agencies involved, and detailed records of who authorized this whole thing. Basically, they want receipts, and honestly, who can blame them? And just when you think it couldn't get any more tangled, the prosecutors added another twist. Now they're accusing Diddy of playing the public relations game, suggesting he's trying to alter public perception. Between the accusations, the seized notes, and the claims of violating attorney and client privilege, it's a lot. And it raises some pretty big questions, like how far is too far when it comes to investigating someone in jail? And how secure is anyone's privacy when even privileged legal notes can be confiscated? Honestly, it's hard not to feel like this case is about more than just Diddy. It touches on issues that could affect anyone. And the whole thing, it's far from over. Behind the scenes legal tensions. The drama within Combs' legal team could honestly be a courtroom series all on its own. It all started to unravel when Mark Agnifilo, the leader of Combs' defense team, discovered something that made his jaw drop. Their client had been using unauthorized communication channels. And guess what? These channels slipped through because of a mistake they made. Can you imagine the panic at that moment? The person they were supposed to be defending was bending the rules they were desperately trying to uphold. Of course, that little mistake opened up a Pandora's box of friction within the team, because if your client is playing secret agent with sensitive information, how do you even begin to trust that they're following the rest of the game plan? And then, as if things weren't bad enough, they found out that Combs was going behind their backs to talk to potential witnesses, even after they explicitly told him not to. How do you keep your cool when your own client puts you in an ethical chokehold? Agnifilo and his team must have been pulling their hair out. After all, if your client is doing everything possible to sabotage the case, how do you defend them and maintain your integrity? It's like trying to build a sandcastle during high tide, pointless and frustrating. Of course, this wasn't the only time the team was at each other's throats. There were heated debates over some seriously critical issues. First, there was the mess with handling privileged materials. Then there was the whole question of how to deal with witness interactions. Should they trust Combs to behave? Spoiler alert, probably not. And let's not forget the public relations nightmare. How were they supposed to spin all this chaos without looking like clowns? They even argued about how to prep for the trial itself. It must have felt like trying to herd cats. Impossible to get everyone on the same page. But wait, there's more. Just when they thought it couldn't get worse, prosecutors dropped another bombshell. Combs had been using a banned communication app while in custody. Seriously? That's like getting caught cheating on a test with the answers written on your hand. Except in this case, the stakes were way higher. The defense team lost it. They were arguing, stressing, probably questioning every life choice that led them to this case. How were they supposed to do their jobs ethically when their client seemed hell-bent on breaking every rule? And just when they thought they'd seen it all, allegations of Combs' significant history of violence started swirling around. That must have felt like the final straw. They had to balance their duty to represent their client with the gut-wrenching reality that the evidence was stacking up against him. How do you defend someone without compromising your own professional standards when the evidence is screaming, "This guy is bad news"? Their legal strategy was crumbling and their ethical position felt shakier than ever. At the end of the day, it was a perfect storm of mistakes, mistrust, and missteps. The whole team must have felt trapped in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. And really, can you blame them? When Diddy's attorney took the stand, nobody expected what came next. Instead of defending his famous client, he confessed why you couldn't represent Diddy anymore, and it shook the courtroom. What could be so bad, so morally compromising that even a lawyer couldn't keep quiet? Don't miss a second, because the details behind this confession might just expose the most explosive secrets of Diddy's career. Pattern of professional misconduct. Federal prosecutors have been digging deep and discovered that Sean Diddy Combs has been up to all kinds of professional misconduct while locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. And honestly, the whole thing is a mess. Like, it's not just one or two little slip-ups. Nope, they found a whole pattern of rule breaking and shady moves to try and game the legal system. It's like he couldn't help himself. And you know how sometimes people get caught doing one thing wrong and you think, okay, maybe it was a one-time thing? Yeah, not here. The guy has layers upon layers of violations. First off, they've got receipts. The prosecutors have documented multiple cases of Diddy trying to communicate with the outside world in ways he definitely knew were against the rules. Apparently, he found some pretty elaborate ways to pull it off too. He was using other inmates' phone access codes to make what's been described as hundreds of unauthorized calls and texts. Hundreds. Like, who even has that much to say from jail? And to make it even sketchier, he was reportedly sending money to those other inmates using payment apps and deposits to their commissary accounts. And it doesn't stop there. They also found out he was using this third-party messaging service called Contact Me ASAP. Through that service, he was able to reach out to dozens of people who weren't on his approved contact list. And the crazy part, he wasn't just casually chatting, he was carefully planning these messages so law enforcement wouldn't catch on. The level of planning that must have gone into that is just... But wait, there's more. The prosecutors list out some of the most eyebrow-raising rule violations. He was using multiple inmates' PAC personal access code numbers for these calls, and he coordinated these three-way calls to talk to people he wasn't allowed to contact. How much effort does it take to set up a three-way call in jail? That's dedication. He even had 2 different accounts on that Contact Me ASAP service. Why 2? Like, was one just not enough for all the sneaky stuff he was up to? And get this, he was still trying to run things outside from behind bars. The prosecutors found out he was telling his family to run social media campaigns for him. Can you imagine the group chat? Hey fam, make sure you post this so everyone thinks I'm the good guy here. And it wasn't just for fun. He was apparently trying to influence potential jury members, like really trying to shape public opinion so that by the time he gets to court, everyone's on his side. Talk about next level damage control. Now, the prosecutors are seriously worried about this whole situation. They described his behavior as relentless when it came to trying to contact potential witnesses, including victims of his alleged misconduct. Let that sink in for a second. The guy's sitting in jail and still finding ways to potentially mess with witnesses. That's disturbing, right? And it just makes you wonder, how far was he willing to go? One of the craziest things is that the prosecutors say Diddy was very clear about his intentions. He wanted to use public statements to twist how people saw him. Like on his birthday, they claim he orchestrated a whole social media campaign. Instead of just eating cake or whatever normal people do on their birthdays, he was trying to sway public opinion, and all of this makes his case even worse when you realize how much influence he allegedly had over people. The prosecutors pointed out how he seems to have this almost supernatural ability to get others to do his dirty work. Employees, family members, fellow inmates, nobody seemed off limits. He just knew how to pull the strings. No wonder judges have repeatedly denied his bail requests. 2 of them flat out said they were worried about witness tampering. And can you blame them? Did he really believe he could outsmart the system forever? Because if there's one thing this whole mess shows, it's that sooner or later the truth catches up. And when it does, it's not pretty. Witness protection concerns. The prosecutors are saying Diddy was coordinating some kind of elaborate plan to manipulate witnesses. Just how elaborate? Well, in 4 days alone, there were 128 phone contacts between him and just one witness. One witness. That's not a conversation. That's a full-on strategy session. And here's more. He wasn't just making these calls himself. He was getting his family involved too, telling them to reach out to victims and push to certain narratives. Like, can you imagine? This isn't just one bad decision, it's a full-blown operation. But wait, it gets crazier. Some of these witnesses were people who had grand jury subpoenas, so the fact that he was contacting them right before they were supposed to testify, that's a big deal. You know how serious you have to be to interfere with grand jury witnesses? It's not just frowned upon, it's borderline career ending, and yet here he is. And the prosecutors, they're not playing around. They caught him red-handed and they're documenting every single move. And speaking of moves, the way Diddy allegedly went about all this was next level sneaky. Like, he really thought he could outsmart the system. One trick he supposedly used, the Contact MeSap app for live messaging, and then he reportedly paid other inmates just to borrow their phone privileges. Think about that. The man was allegedly handing out favors in cash just to keep the lines of communication open, power to pull strings even from a jail cell. And apparently he had 2 accounts on a messaging app just so he could bypass the approved contact list. Honestly, it's no wonder the authorities decided to crack down. The judge, Arun Subramanian, wasn't having any of it. He pointed to these allegations when he denied Diddy's bail. And now there's this whole monitoring system in place to keep an eye on everything, like calls from jail, social media posts, contact through middlemen, even what Diddy's family members are up to. It's like a security fortress designed just to keep his influence at bay. But can you blame them? When someone has an uncanny ability to get others to do their bidding, you've got to take some serious precautions. And let's be real, this isn't just about one person's actions. Prosecutors are genuinely worried that Diddy's alleged behavior could mess with the fairness of the entire trial. They believe he poses a serious risk of danger and obstruction. That's not just legal jargon. God, that's a major red flag, and because of that, they've imposed some of the strictest communication limits ever seen. It's one thing to hear rumors about Diddy, but it's another when his own attorney steps into court and spills the truth. This isn't gossip. This is a legal professional confessing why they had to cut ties with Diddy for good. What did they know that made continuing impossible? And what does it mean for Diddy's future? Stay until the end, because this shocking revelation could be just the beginning of a much bigger storm. Impact on criminal defense. Sean Diddy Combs' legal troubles are spiraling out of control, and honestly, the situation just keeps getting messier by the day. His bond with his legal team is practically hanging by a thread. Why? Well, it turns out Combs was doing some pretty sneaky stuff behind their backs, and trust, that went out the window, because guess what? His lawyers also found out he was leaking videos that painted him in a good light anonymously without giving them a heads up. But things hit rock bottom when prosecutors pulled out receipts showing Combs was using payment apps and deposits to the BOP commissary account for unauthorized communications. While his lawyers were out there telling everyone he was following detention rules, he was busy breaking them. Now, the case isn't just a simple courtroom drama, it's becoming one of the most intricate legal battles in recent memory. We're talking layers upon layers of complexity. Prosecutors are digging deep, uncovering stuff that's going way beyond the initial charges. And let's not forget the sheer volume of digital evidence. After raids on his Miami and LA properties, and even a private Florida airport, they found a whopping 96 electronic devices. That's like having a digital mountain to climb. Sorting through that much information, it's enough to make anyone's head spin. But it gets worse. Out of those devices, investigators found 90 terabytes of data. Just to put that in perspective, that's more data than you know what to do with. Imagine trying to sift through all that, looking for anything that could help build a defense. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is the size of a skyscraper. And while the defense team is dealing with that mountain of data, prosecutors are out there finding evidence of Combs trying to pay off potential witnesses, run shady social media campaigns, and twist public opinion in his favor. And it's not just one set of prosecutors on this case. There are investigations happening in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. Plus, federal agencies are involved. This thing is massive. It's no wonder everything keeps getting delayed. Can you imagine the stress of juggling multiple investigations, heaps of digital evidence, and a client who keeps going off script? And just when the defense team thinks they might have a handle on things, boom, new revelations drop. Prosecutors are now dealing with claims from 120 accusers spanning over 2 decades. Yeah, you heard that right. It's honestly hard to see how his lawyers can keep up with this. They've got to completely rethink their strategy every time a new evidence surfaces. It's like trying to build a sandcastle during high tide. Every time they get some structure in place, another wave comes and washes it away. And with prosecutors claiming Combs has a long history of obstruction, it's no wonder his legal team is scrambling. He's been accused of asking witnesses and employees to cover things up for him for years, and that pattern is making their job nearly impossible. So now the whole thing is just this giant tangled mess. What started off as serious but manageable legal trouble has snowballed into a full-on disaster. The defense team is stuck trying to put out fires left and right, all while their client keeps tossing more fuel onto the flames. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.